You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Insights with me and Sherry.
Insights with Cathleen. Hello, guys. How you doing today?
Wow, can you hear them? They're all like, "Yeah, we're okay."
Yeah, I want
right."
everyone to say they're okay.
Yeah, but I hear somebody going, "Well, I've been better."
I've had a rough week. I get it. Me too. I understand that.
Well, tell me what's going on.
All right. Well, I felt something pressing to talk about this, so I will be very candid with you guys because I like you guys. So, my brother unfortunately is in the hospital, and my mom has been with him for almost 2 weeks or something. So, praying for, recovery or an answer or whatever. So, me and my dad had to, just drop stuff off at the hospital or whatever. And we just got into the weirdest argument. And it wasn't even anything bad or anything like that, but we were arguing over which entrance we were supposed to take. So I told him, "Hey, I think we're supposed to take the emergency one because, I think only the nurses have access to this entrance." That's what I told him. Called my mom, and then she's like, No, I think it's the other one." And out of nowhere, he's like yelling at me. He's so angry. He's like, "I can't believe you told me the wrong entrance. What's the matter with you? I can't believe you lied. Why would you lie? Blah, blah, blah." And kind of berating me. And I was I don't know, obviously anyone would be upset, but I got very, very triggered in that moment. I was very upset and about to cry, but I was like, I want to cry because he's making me mad. So he went to the lobby, give my mom the stuff. I stay in the car and I kind of just cool myself off. And I just took a drive, whatever, after that ordeal was over. But yeah, I don't know why I got so emotional and upset because, we've had arguments before. But that particular one, just in an instant, so mad. I was like, I want to thump you.
Well, first of all, that's real stuff, right?
It is, yeah.
It's real life happening here and now. But really, first of all, grace of healing for your brother.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, considering your family's under stress,
right,
and I know that you shared with me in the past that there's other underlining issues in this relationship of yours.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but obviously we can't really change or make people behave the way that we want them to behave.
Right.
Right. And sometimes we really can't predict it. We could probably read it, but we can't really predict it.
Right. Yeah.
So what can we control in that?
I guess our reaction. Yay.
I love the little shoulder thing.
Shoulder
it's like
shimmy.
A little dance. Our reaction.
Me.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes that's hard especially when there's a button that's been pushed and it's like, the Disney movie Inside Out?
Yeah.
I love that one because it's a great visual for who's pushing those buttons,
right?
And which emotion is showing up for what particular event, right?
Right.
So somebody hit your anger button.
Someone just hit it. Kathleen, I was so I had not been that angry in a very long time, and I was like, where is this coming from? Why am I just so infuriated and enraged?
But how can I say this? So all of our emotions are important,
right? Because
they all tell us a story,
right?
A little bit of a story about us.
Yes, right? It does.
So first of all, kudos to you for recognizing
Thank
it
you.
Was anger that you were feeling,
right?
And it was visiting you, because I know for myself, growing up and being your age,
right?
I still had no idea what anger was,
right?
I'd be in these different relationships and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I'm okay."
Yeah, I did that.
I'm the easygoing, collaborative individual.
Right.
Oh, I just go with the flow. Basically, I was emotionally numb when it came to those more heavier emotions, right?
Yeah.
And it takes time and maturity or at least for me anyway, to really recognize that. And some of that comes with the fact that when I was little and the trauma that I've experienced or had experience in, it sort of shut off my emotion centers. And I know, Sherry, you've been so lovely and generous in sharing your experiences with us and that in hopes that we all can learn different things. So thank you. but when your emotions are turned off or you're just numb, right? Because of things that are happening to you, you just, to cope, you can't feel.
Right. You
just
just
to
shut
live
down.
and shut down. So how exciting, first of all, let's just celebrate the fact that you
Yay.
felt anger.
Woo! That makes me so happy.
Not. But then it also gives us an opportunity to step back and do, like we've talked about this before, to witness to ourselves, to do that full check-in, that body scan.
Right.
It's like, okay, where does this really coming from? Where's this living in me? Because, yeah, he was there, and it may appear like he was the person making you mad. I think he was just setting you up to have something bubble up from inside of you.
Right.
So now it's our opportunity to say, okay, let's witness to this. Like, what is this really? Because this situation is going to come up again.
Right.
Your brother is still in his situation, and then other underlying circumstances that brought you to bring him to the hospital, give him that ride. That's still there. So you know that you have that potential to have exposure with him again in a high stress way. Right. So you take, I would recommend that you take some time to you and figure out, I mean, you don't have to share that here with us, but just figure out, like, okay, where does this live in me?
Right.
And once you can figure out, like, where am I feeling it in my body?
Right.
Right. And then you dive in and you dig into that. And
Feeling
you're
that
like,
in my fist.
Okay, because you really just want to punch him out.
I really did. And, thank you for affirming, like, just confirmation of, like, feelings, because I, just like yourself, I was like, the only emotions I have is happy and sad. And I'm usually happy 80% of the time. And I didn't know what anger was. I didn't know jealousy, any of these other feelings. So in the moment, yes, I didn't want to feel those things. I had like almost a gut reaction to shut it down, but I was like, no, okay. Feelings are important. You're right. Because they tell you, they tell you about yourself. They tell you a story. So I'm glad that I did that. And I did do some digging that day. And more things came up because, the best way to, feel the feels is to cry. So I'm just like, what? I don't want to cry, but I have to cry. Got a huge migraine afterwards, and I didn't like that. But I had to cry. And I kind of was just thinking about, like, why am I upset? What is going on? And I think, just to share a little skimmit of, like, why I felt that way is just because my family dynamic, and I think with, a family member in the hospital, it almost heightened maybe some things that I don't love about my family.
Sure.
So, maybe someone's a little overbearing. Maybe someone doesn't, treat you like an adult and give you boundaries. So I think that...
Or maybe somebody just doesn't show up the way that you think that they should show up.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's an even better one. I think, my dad, I just felt like, hey, you should show up like this, and you're not, and you never do, and it makes me frustrated, and it makes me angry, thus you belittling me may be very...
Okay, so let's go with that, right?
Okay.
So that's beautiful. Thank you very much, because I think a lot of us can relate to exactly what you just said there.
Right.
Right? There's this expectation. There's this need. He's not the dad that you feel you need to have.
Right.
He's not being dad and showing up as dad in the way that you feel that he should. So there's that level of expectation, judgment, even an attachment to some degree. And then when we really let's throw in a little bit of resistance at the fact that he's not freaking showing up the way that I need him to.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. Can you just show up as my dad today?
Just show up.
Just
please.
show up as the family dad.
Just do that.
Grow up.
Right. Peter Pan.
So those are real feelings, and those are real emotions, and those are things to mourn.
Right. Yeah.
And then once we can realize, okay, that's my expectation I'm putting up there, but let me just take a step back here. I'm going to acknowledge that in me, acknowledge that that's somehow a need for me. Where can I fulfill that need separate from him? Because obviously he just doesn't have the capacity to give it one way or another, right?
Yeah.
So once we recognize that, okay, this individual just cannot show up in the way that I feel.
Right.
I need them to show up.
Yeah.
So can I get that somewhere else? Can I get that inside of me? Can I do that for me?
Showing up for myself.
Something like that, right?
Something like that.
But then give him the grace.
Right.
To say, okay, there must be a little person inside of him that's damaged or injured or has not been attended to.
Right.
So that, you figure he's your dad, so he's how many years older than you, so he's had that much more
a bit
experience to pile more crap on if he hasn't dug down and dealt with it, right? Mm-hmm. So we can step back and have a little bit of compassion for where they are. Not to say that it excuses anything that they're doing, not to say that we still don't stand up and show up for ourselves and set healthy boundaries, especially when somebody is taking advantage of us or doing things that are just, not good for loving of us or them.
I love that. Yeah.
Right? So, but we can be loving of ourselves and for them by doing this, by stepping back, recognizing, oh, this is my need.
Right.
This person doesn't have those capabilities or that capacity. So how can I heal that in me? What can I do for me to help resolve that?
What can you do for you to resolve that? I'm actually curious.
Well, I think it's a couple of things, right? First of all, it's like, what really is the need? So for me, like, I can relate it to me. So my story is, my parents had a really rough upbringing. And I think for me, in order to cope with what I was dealing with and trying to understand.
Right.
Right? Because that's how I'm wired. Like give me more information.
Right. I'm the same way.
So I can get in there and I can figure out what's really underneath all of this crap that you're telling me.
Yeah.
And I may be sharing way too much information here, because I just remember my mom's mother was wheelchair bound, and I was a very young adult. And they're telling me that she had MS. But then I'm hearing whispers of other things. So the tenacious person that I am, I'm in there pounding on her and my aunt. Like, is this really true? Because do you know that could be there's genetic markers for that? I need to know now before I have kids. And I didn't know whether any of that was true. I mean, but I was
You're just like, I want to know.
I want to know the truth because somehow this isn't fully the truth, and I know it.
Right.
So to come to find out that my mom's mom actually had syphilis, and that's why she was in a wheelchair.
No.
Yeah, and that was before, they really figured out, antibiotics and the treatments for that. So I guess my grandmother helped pave the way for the treatments. I mean, I could definitely look at it that way and not look at it like she was playing around on my grandfather.
Thank God.
I mean, it's a story waiting to be written. I'm telling you,
it is
just
honestly.
my mom's whole upbringing. But anyway, so my dad grew up. His father was an alcoholic and used to beat him, and he witnessed him beating the crap out of his older brother to the point where, like, I think my dad was 6 years old, begging his father, "Stop hitting, stop it, don't kill him."
Yeah,
So, and then his parents having these like physical fights, and the mother packing up and leaving, and then leaving my dad with the old man who was abusive anyway. And then we fast forward to now I'm a little girl and his old man's abusing me.
Oh no.
Right? So my dad's carrying but this is part of the nature of who I am. Like, this is why I wanted to get in and understand everything.
Right, yeah.
It's like, because I had a drive on wanting to heal me. I wanted me to feel like a normal human being, and to regain my emotions, and to not be Data from Star Trek, right?
Yeah, we don't want
that. No. So, but my dad, as I'm growing and these different experiences are happening to me, and there's that level of victimization that I'm carrying around with me, and I'm guessing that, and I've learned this now, being where I am now, I can look back and I can label these things because of still being in that area of looking for somebody to stand up for me.
Right.
Somebody to protect me.
Yeah.
I always felt that was my dad's job. You got to protect me.
Right.
You're my protector. You're my daddy.
Yeah.
Right? Listen to me. Be there for me.
Exactly.
And he just didn't have that capability. He didn't have that capacity because he never learned it. Right? So when we really think about his own history and the level of abuse that he went through, his little boy inside of him was still really hurting. And I think as I grew, I remember being 12 years old and at my mom's older sister's house, wondering, heartbroken, why doesn't my daddy like to hug me?
Right, yeah.
But he's not hugging
That's
me.
my dad.
And I'm like an uber sensitive girl. You looked at me wrong, and I would cry. I've learned to control that one a little bit, but as a little girl, I would cry. And made my dad so uncomfortable. But so my aunt looked at me and she just said, Kathleen, your dad never received any physical affection from his parents. So he doesn't know how to give it. Well, what a beautiful gift my aunt just gave me.
Right.
So now instead of me focusing on the lack of the fathership that I seek from my dad,
right,
I was able to turn it around and say, okay, you know what? I'm forcing hugs on this man because by golly, he's going to learn to hug me.
He's going to hug me.
I'm going to make him love me the way I want him to. Now, that wasn't really my expectation, but my heart did break for him a little bit on that day when I learned that, you know, some of the reasons why he is the way that he is because he had lack in certain areas, so that he didn't have the skill set. He didn't feel worthy. You know, he didn't feel self-love. So if you don't feel worthy and you don't feel self-love, it's really hard to give to someone else.
Right.
So, okay. So, but still the question is, well, what do you do about that? How do you reconcile the fact that daddy is not the daddy that you need?
Right.
Right. You got to find that inside of yourself is really where it comes down to. I mean, I could take you through all the years and the trials and the tripping up and the figuring it out and the levels of manipulation, you know, and just to come down, and we'll just wrap it really quickly. It's just that you recognize that this need lives in you. Right.
Yeah.
And with grace, we give that forgiveness back to that parental unit who doesn't have the capacity to give us what we need.
Right.
But we go deep inside and we give it to ourselves.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I guess for me personally, you're right. It was kind of like almost an abandonment thing. And funny enough, when that that exchange transpired, like I had plans with a couple of people and they all just didn't go through. And I'm like, I feel abandoned. I'm upset. I feel like a little girl. I don't like this feeling. So I almost have to tell little Sherry, like, it's okay. And I just got upset and mad, but I'm just like, you know what? I think I need to decompress and like think or meditate or something like that. And I'm still trying to like figure that out, like, you know, of the abandonment thing. Because I hear people talk about that a lot. Like a lot of people tell me about that with like the abandonment issues and stuff like that. How do you resolve that within yourself, or what steps can you take to do that?
Yeah. So first of all, acknowledge it, right? You have to recognize and really respect and love that piece of it.
Right.
And it's complicated. It's not just like, oh yeah, well, you know what, just do that.
12 steps, like in a blog.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a journey, and it's about the journey and the experimenting, right? And I'm just gonna back up a little bit. So with my dad, one of the ways that I tried to get that self-worth for myself, because it's taken me a long time, and I think that there's still aspects of me that still is working on that, right? Because we're human beings. I mean, I could say that, hey, I'm pretty healthy now, but I still have my moments. I still have my moments, and I always will have my moments.
Right.
And I think that that's the real thing, right? You have to recognize the fact that there will be days where you're just so tired, and then life will throw crap at you, and you personally don't have the capacity to even be there for yourself, let alone for anyone else that you might be taking care of or that's in your life, right? But one of the things that I used to do, Sherry, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but this worked for me.
Say it.
So knowing and recognizing that my father couldn't be there for me in the way that I felt I needed him to be there, I sort of adopted people.
I feel like
not to say that like I went around with my little sign and can looking for a dad replacement.
Give me a daddy.
Can you be my daddy today? But what I would do is, if there was just like an emotion or a connection, a specific connection that I needed, I would find it in other relationships. So my parents had some really decent friends, and in fact, my dad's really close friend's name's Harry, and Harry has left this world and moved on, transitioned into spirit. So God bless Harry. He'll show up now that I'm talking about him. But Harry was pretty awesome in the fact that he accepted my dad for who he is, and he knew that my dad could be an ass, especially to my mom. Right. And Harry used to always call him out on it. Yeah. So to my mom and I, we were like always Harry's biggest fans. Yeah, Harry.
Yeah, Harry.
Harry didn't have any children. And him and Chris, really awesome people.
Wow.
And so I kind of adopted Harry. Like, now Harry isn't your lovey-dovey kind of person either. You know, 'cause
Right.
I don't think that he really knew how to do that or wasn't always really comfortable about it.
Right.
But I built that relationship with him, and there were aspects. I got his attention. He would
Right.
sit and listen to me.
Oh, that's
and,
nice.
and I had his full attention. I didn't always get that with my dad, because I think my dad was wrapped up in his own stuff, right?
Right.
Because all the voices in his head,
Yes.
right? Hey, there's a song that goes like that, right? All
Is-
the voices in.
Yeah, there has to be a song. I know.
Anyway,
Gotta
so
figure that out now.
we can all get caught up in those kinds of things, right? As we're looking to try to reconcile the lack of that father relationship or that father that we think that we need.
Right.
And that's where we come and we quiet our own voices and we find that center. And again, like I said, maybe it's a friendship or a relationship with someone else.
A wink, a wink.
A wink, a wink.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome, honey. Wait a minute. You're welcome, honey.
Nice. It sounded like you're in a grave. Jesus. That was so scary. Do men sound like that?
I don't know.
That's the best deep voice I could come up with.
If I meet a man that sounds like that, I'm going to be so frightened. I'm going to be like, please get out of my line. Please get away from me. You're 2 kids in a trench coat. Stop trying to be a man.
So look for those aspects that you need in the moment that you need them
Right.
in other relationships. It doesn't necessarily have to be a male. It doesn't necessarily have to be your dad.
Right.
It could be an uncle. It could be a friend. It could be, if you go to church, a pastor, just somebody that you trust. But always, it doesn't really matter who it is or what they're saying or what they're doing.
Right.
Always trust your gut.
Right. Yes.
Yes. And just like how we always say here, take what works for you, leave the rest.
Right.
Right. Did that help? Did that answer your question?
No, that helped a lot because I think on the low, I think I kind of do that because my extended family is messy. Messy is the
a
word.
lot of us have that.
Yeah, it's extremely messy. So I think I unknowingly, in a beautiful way, will adopt just either my friends' parents or just older people that just seem to like me. I don't know what the case may be. But then they're just like, hey, now because of Rona, I can't really go. But a lot of families like to invite me to their family things, their picnics, their Thanksgivings, their whatever. And I'm like, I love this. Now, I don't get this with my own family. So I felt some sort of lack. But now I realize no, I don't have to feel that just because that would happen with other people.
Well, yeah. And then it's also that aspect of that you may just not really vibrate with them.
I don't.
So I know for myself, I always felt like I was the black sheep of the family. Like I was the oddball out.
I was very, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is really on purpose. And it's probably, and a lot of people in the esoterical kind of world and
Right.
the people who really dip their foot into spirituality
Right.
and those who are really sensitives and empaths and on. A lot of them have the same kind of story that they don't feel like they fit in the family. They somehow feel like they're the oddball or the black sheep or something along those lines, or they just don't get me or they don't understand
Nobody
me.
gets me.
Well, it's because, on a soul level, and I'm going to get a little woo-woo here, but on a soul level, before you came down, you agreed with this biological family that you're with right now, that you're going to come with them, and they agreed to be your family because there was something you needed to impart on them and they as well on you, but they're not necessarily your soul family. And that's probably why it feels like there's a level of disconnect, a level of non-relating.
Right. Yeah, because I've been to family things for my own family, and I've been to we had a huge family reunion, and I don't know how there were a lot of people in there. There were at least 50 to 75. And it just felt like a bunch of people. It didn't feel like oh wow, I fit here. It's like wow, nobody looks like me, nobody acts like me. No, it's just a very weird feeling.
Yeah, as you're telling me that, I'm kind of feeling like I'm just the light bulb that showed up just to shine a little light.
Honestly, yeah, because people found out I did music, so I played some music, or I would just be in one of the entertaining things, and then I would like just leave.
Yeah, and then what happens is that you find your soul family outside of the biological family, right? And or adoptive family. Because I don't want to like this, not include everyone in their different situations.
Right.
But the family that you're born into or adopted into may not necessarily be the soul family, and it's okay. That is okay. You just send them with lots of love and light, and you just go and you search for those that you have real soul connections with.
Right.
And then you feed yourself that way. And I think that part of getting ahead and getting in touch. So if we go back to that whole hospital piece where you were talking and that anger that rose up, right? So that's an opportunity for you to really dig in and to grow some of your emotional intelligence as you're doing and touching base with what's happening inside of you, and then really understanding what is really at the root of this.
Right.
What is it in me that's at the root? Because it's really not him.
Right.
He's just the mirror.
Yeah.
And he might have been the button pusher. But how do you get to the root? How do you get to the root of that so that those buttons can't be pushed anymore? Like, how did those buttons get eliminated? And that takes you spending time with you.
Right.
And loving yourself enough to get down in there and get real with oneself and say, okay, what is this really? Am I just overly stressed for the situation that's at hand? Am I a little fearful because I don't know what's going to happen? And then if something were to happen to my brother, what's that look like?
Right.
How am I going to deal with that? He's such a beautiful soul. Oh my goodness, what's my mom going to be like? And maybe that's the running story inside of your gut that just exploded into anger because the little boy in your dad was overreacting. Who knows? Maybe there's that stress is what he was carrying around too.
Right.
And I think if we're able to separate out our stress from their stress and understand where ours is coming from, so then we're hitting center again, right?
Right. Then
we have the capacity to manage to those who don't have the skill set as of yet, whether they want it or not, but to really do that whole check-in and have that emotional intelligence enough to control themselves. But we can then in turn control our response to the stimuli outside of us.
Right. No, I love what you're saying. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think in the past I used to be like, if I could just change him, or, because, we've all been there where
if you would just be different,
if you would
be like this,
if you would just be different, or if I articulate in some way, maybe something will change. But you're right. It is about doing the work inside of you. And sometimes it's like hard because it's such a split moment. It's so fast. So I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to reason with him like a person. And then we just started yelling. And I'm like, I don't like yelling. What is going on right now?
Yeah. So sometimes like when you are in that moment that quickly. So Elizabeth Wood, seer scientist. I encourage anyone listening, look her up. She has this ebook that she offers, and it talks about the three minds. It talks about the mind, the heart mind, and the gut mind. And she also goes through this process, right? And it's about in that split second of just knowing, okay, this rose up inside of me, but I'm going to take a big deep breath. I'm going to ground myself, and I'm going to still be in center.
Right.
Before reacting, but I'm going to come back later and I'm going to do this whole scan thing and figure out, all right, what is this? So that when another situation comes across, that this is not going to bubble up again. Right. And then in that split second, what I find that works for me is, again, it's not listening to the words that are happening, but getting down under and recognizing the young person who's scared to death inside of this otherwise seemingly adult.
Right.
All right. So I'm gonna tell you, here's a big deep secret for all of us parental units and for all of these other adults out there, like for you young people, when you see us adults and you think, oh wow, look at that adult, they got it all together. No. We're figuring it out just like the rest of the world, right? And some of us may have it figured out a little bit more over others, but we still have that little person inside who sometimes can be scared. I don't care how enlightened you are or how far ahead of things you are.
Right.
You'll still forever have those moments of self-doubt, those moments of a split second lack or split second unworthiness, and
Right.
and depending on your just not your emotional capacity, but where you are physically, how tired are you, did you eat right today, did you depending on how you've set yourself up for the day,
Right.
could then also contribute to how you may receive or respond to things, right?
Right.
So even though I'm sharing all of these, this is kind of what I do, but please know,
Yeah.
I could be the queen of losing my crap in a second too, okay? So, but I've learned though, when somebody else is losing their crap, then I visually will ground myself, like in my mind's eye, I will just feel myself planting my feet nice and strong, like a nice strong tree. Okay. Where I'm rooted down deep, but I have that flexibility to sway. What?
I have a question. That's
I love
why
that the little hand.
I'm like,
raise.
hi. So with that situation with my dad, it was almost like, I don't know if this has happened to you before, when someone's like egging you on.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even just like a, hey, why did you tell me the wrong spot? I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you? Like, it was just consistent.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm in a car and I can't leave, because usually I'm like, I could just leave.
So when somebody's getting like that,
Yeah.
it really has nothing to do with what they're saying and what they're questioning you about.
Right.
And the thing I love to do,
What?
and I have to say, I really get off on doing this.
What? Excuse me? Excuse
know.
you?
I know, it's so fun. So
Oh, you were there.
so when they're asking the questions, and you can really feel where they are. Right. It's about feeling where they are.
Right.
Has nothing to do with you. What was happening right there
Right.
had nothing to do with you. Had everything to do with him, his insecurities, his fears, his inadequacy, his inability to be there the way that he feels shame. He feels shame in that moment. And that was what you were experiencing. Him egging you on had nothing to do with you. And he probably didn't even try to push your buttons as much as he was just trying to deflect what he was feeling by projecting to you. So what I love to do, and this is where I get,
You get out on this.
You recognize that this is what's going on, right? Because when you're centered and you're always, and you're working on, those three minds, like I was telling you, and again, Elizabeth Wood, Seer Scientist, look her up. It's a great book to read for this. But when you are taking care of your junk and you're faced with this other crap that's rolling out at you,
right,
you can stay centered, and then you can have that level of compassion and empathy for the resistance, the hurt that's going on inside of that individual. So if he's coming at you, why'd you tell me that wrong door? Why
that was a good impression of him.
Yeah, why did you lie to me, Sherry? I don't understand it, Sherry. Huh? Why would you do that to me, Sherry? And then you look at him very calmly and you say, Dad, are you feeling a little stressed right now?
I love that.
I know that this is really hard. I mean, I'm a little bit scared for Daniel too. How you doing over there, Dad?
Hey, how you doing?
Right?
That's nice.
But you see how instead of you matching his energy and you bring it down, you talk slowly, you talk quietly. It'll be like a in his little head.
I'll be like, oh, wow.
Huh? Wait a minute. She's not meeting this energy? I don't understand. Because his brain can't reconcile it.
Right.
Because he's going, chugga, 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 and you're going, it is the coolest thing ever. And it's really satisfying, at least for me.
I get it, because I even did that with a customer from my work, and she did the same thing. She was like really mad. She's like, I hate this store. I'm so mad. Blah, blah, blah. Like, she was really, really mad. She wasn't yelling, but she was really mad. And I was like, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I could do? It's like, and then she quickly like dissipated. I was like, no, it's not your fault. You have a good day. I went from being screamed at to have a good day.
Right. See, so you know what that feels like.
It's so sad. I get off on it too.
Right. So it's a little harder to do that practice with a family member, especially when you live with them and they are your parental unit. But trust me, if you can step out of you and not make it about you,
right,
when this is coming at you, and you realize this is really about them. This is about the little person inside of them that's afraid. This is a little person inside of them that's hurt.
Right.
And if you can recognize it, because you can read the circumstances around you, right?
Right.
So you kind of understand what's happening in general vicinity of things.
Yeah.
So then if we relate it down to the emotion and down to, this has got to be fear, insecurity, even a level of unworthiness or shame.
Right.
And men, when they're really feeling that way, it's been my experience that it's all of that. Like when they're like, ah,
yeah,
they're feeling not so great about themselves, and they really just need somebody to see them.
Right.
And it's not just men, women too, people in general. When they're there, once they feel like they're seen and heard,
right,
kind of like that customer.
Yeah,
you saw her, you heard her,
yeah,
and that's why it came down. That's why you got to have a good day.
It was nice. It was satisfying. I loved, and it's funny because you were just saying this is, like the law of attraction and stuff like that. And I notice I get a lot, like, it's very rare when I get angry people just like, cursing me out of my line as opposed to other people. So it is nice to have that mechanism be like, hey, I hear your complaint. I see you as a person and I get why you're upset.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just to, and I don't know if this will be helpful to you, because I know that this was helpful for me.
Right.
Is that when it's coming at you, it really has nothing to do with you.
That is nice to hear, though, because sometimes I internalize it and I'm like, is it me? What did I do? And sometimes I don't know where to shift it, because sometimes it's like, oh, this is a mirror. My reaction is a mirror to what's going on, and their reaction to me is something going on with them.
And then, yes. And then, but also, I mean, the other side of that too, like when you're in a relationship with somebody, if you did something wrong, and you're the one who's pushing the button,
it's
so like
that thing. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah. So then let's just flip it. Let's just say that we were kind of being stupid, right? And we were operating out of our fear,
right? And
our not so clear thinking, and maybe we said something really bad, or we're just losing our crap,
right?
And now the other person's receiving that.
Right.
So I forgot where I was going with this. But basically, we still need to be mindful. We still need to be mindful of our own stuff.
Right. And
then what we're putting out there.
Right.
Oh, I know where I was going with this.
Okay, go ahead.
In relationship, right? So
yes.
we can easily just dismiss it as to like, oh, it's them, not me.
Right.
But we still need to make sure we're showing up in our relationships. Like,
right.
Like the way that they're reacting, it really is about them, but I want to relate to you. I don't want you to feel this way anymore. So let's get down to the root of it.
Right.
So I'm not saying, just remember that it's really that emotion coming at you is all about them, not you.
Yeah.
But in order to relate, we still want to make sure that we're loving and respectful, especially if it's a mate or somebody that we're dating or we're married to. That is mate. I'm repeating myself. So
I like that. A mate.
A mate.
Is that what you call it? Is that what you crazy kids call it now?
Oh, I have no idea. I make up all kinds of words. Significant other. My kids told me, Mom, stop using significant other. It makes it sound like you're gay.
No, partner makes it sound like you're gay.
Partner. Okay.
Yeah, that's the gay
Maybe
one.
that was it. Maybe it was partner I was using. But so it may be them, their emotion that's getting the better of them. It is really about them.
Right.
It's about something inside of them that they need to address, but we can still be loving and compassionate and show up for them.
Right.
And sometimes it may be just, jogging our own awareness of how we are showing up for them, and how are we meeting expectations, not meeting expectations? Do we choose to meet expectations, or
right,
and say, oh yeah, you know what, that expectation of yours, that's not me. So either you need to change that expectation of you, or we need to reassess this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that happened to me plenty of times, because I would try to do expectations and the person couldn't meet any of them.
Yeah. So
and then I tried to chug along, and this was like a while back, but I tried to chug along, and then this summer, and it didn't work out. But I guess my gut was telling me, like, you're trying to ride this dead horse. You need to get off. You need to stop.
Yeah, you need to do a little bit better on discernment there, lady.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, Sherry, did this help you?
This was very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing. Because I think that this was really good information to share, right?
I think it was too. It was very insightful.
Well, thank
Kathleen.
you, darling. Well, and thank you everyone for listening, and we hope that you tune in next time. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.